I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to Coeur d'Alene City Council meeting for March 4th, 2025. And Joe, if we could do a roll call, please.
Evans,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Gabriel,
Here.
English, Wood,
Here.
Gookin.
Here.
Thank you, Joe. We're going to stand for the invocation, and Amanda Nicole from the Community United Methodist Church of Coeur d'Alene is here. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Amanda Nickel. I represent the congregation of Community United Methodist Church, which has been serving this community for 141 years. So if you'll join me, please, in an attitude of prayer. Oh God, we thank you for our civic leaders and the calling that you have placed on their lives. We thank you also for all workers who serve our city, for to them you have entrusted the task of governing this community. Make them faithful in their service. Give us all discerning minds. Keep our hearts centered on the common good of our community, especially the needs of our most vulnerable neighbors. In our discussions, give us clarity and understanding of differing views. In our voting, give us wisdom and integrity. Cause us to be good stewards of the resources at our disposal, whether our time, talent, or money. Bind us together in unity, compassion, and justice. In your name we pray. Amen.
Councilman Gabriel, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We do have a presentation tonight from, this is the proclamation for the month of March 2025 as a Senior Nutrition Month. And Mr. Gookin here has been very supportive of our home-delivered meals over the years, so I thought you can do that proclamation if you would be so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas since 1972, the National Senior Nutrition Program has funded local agencies and organizations to serve home-delivered and congregate meals to help ensure older adults have opportunities to stay healthy, independent, and connected. And whereas March 2025 represents the 52nd anniversary of the National Senior Nutrition Program, and whereas more than 10 million older Americans face hunger each year, and whereas local senior nutrition programs help older adults access healthy food, nutrition screening, education and counseling, social opportunities, and other supports that encourage well-being, and whereas the Area Agency on Aging of North Idaho is an integral part of our community, providing access to high-quality, nutritious foods, helping to foster meaningful social connections, and supporting overall health, and whereas the local senior nutrition program is having a positive impact on our community and its senior members, and in 2024 served 54,658 congregate meals to 2,122 participants and 73,413 home-delivered meals to 4,648 participants, and whereas all individuals should recognize older adults and the people who support them through nutrition services as essential contributors to the strength of our community, now therefore Mayor Woody Evans of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, proclaims the month of March 2025 as Senior Nutrition Month, and we have someone to receive the...
Sage Stoddard, the Director of the Area Agency on Aging in North Idaho. Thanks for coming out, Sage. No pressure, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. You're going to tell us how this works, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
So Mayor McEvers, Council, and Community, my name is Sage Stoddard, and I am the Director of Area Agency on Aging of North Idaho, and we are part of North Idaho College. So I am just going to do a very quick, 5-minute presentation on Area Agency on Aging and part of our nutrition program. So, the Area Agency on Aging of North Idaho, or I will say AAA, just to cut down a little time, actually. We are part of a nationwide aging network created through the Older Americans Act with a focus to help people stay independent, contributing members of their community. Our mission is to work in partnership with older adults, families, and the community to provide information and services that maximize independence and quality of life for seniors. We serve the seniors of the 5 northern counties of North Idaho. So some of our basic programs are home-delivered meals, congregate meals. We have a homemaker program which provides light housekeeping, caregiver respite, which provides a break for caregivers. We have adult protection services for suspected abuse, neglect, and exploitation of vulnerable adults. And then we have long-term care ombudsman advocating for residents' rights and skilled nursing facilities. So this March, we are proud to celebrate the anniversary of the National Senior Nutrition Program. So the main services in this program are home-delivered meals and congregate meals. With our home-delivered meal program, we provide partial funding to the 13 senior centers of the 5 northern counties, and this provides 5 meals a week for qualified homebound seniors. With our congregate meals, these meals are prepared by and served at local senior centers. Those that are under 60 are charged, and those that are 60 and better are given the option to donate. So partially funded by AAA, this program helps people come together to enjoy nutritious meals, talk with friends, participate in health programs, and obtain information about other services. So we are going to spotlight Lake City Center. And in the next couple of slides, we're going to share some photos of these fabulous volunteers that are preparing meals, some grateful seniors that are receiving meals, and the actual nutritious meals that are being served. So Lake City Center focuses on food insecurity and social isolation of the community's most vulnerable adults. In fiscal year 2024, Lake City Center served 43,177 meals, home-delivered meals, to 343 participants, and 3,313 congregate meals. So in that same year, throughout North Idaho, AAA served or helped fund 73,413 home-delivered meals and 54,658 congregate meals in the 5 northern counties. So a couple quotes from recipients. We could not get by without the home-delivered meals. Another one is, if it were not for the meal program, I'd worry about my mother getting enough food when I don't have time to prepare her meals. I know she'll have something good to eat. Another quote is, with the meal program, when I want something to eat, it's there. And another quote is, if these meal programs didn't exist, I would be eating out of a can. And then a couple quotes from some of the volunteers, and this would not be possible. This work would not be possible without the work of the volunteers at Lake City Center. One of the most rewarding things about delivering meals is that you're supposed to be checking on the seniors, but when you miss a week because you're on vacation or sick or something, they actually worry about you. Another quote is, I enjoy getting out and helping check on people. To paraphrase the late Olympic runner Eric Liddell, when I'm delivering meals, I feel the Lord's pleasure. So Nancy and her crew at Lake City Center have done a fabulous job serving the adults in our community. Any questions?
Can you explain the congregate, what that word means? That was hard for me to learn that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So a congregate meal is served at the 13 senior centers of North Idaho, and it's typically a lunch meal. We do have one senior center that it's actually a dinner meal, and it's when seniors or adults can come together and congregate and talk. And social isolation, especially during COVID, was a really big deal in our area, in all the areas. And so congregate meals help those seniors come together and talk and be social.
Thank you. Christy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, first of all, great presentation, and the fact that you've been part of North Idaho College for so long is awesome. Go Cardinals. Anyway, I'm curious, if are the federal grants that are being paused or withheld, is that affecting your organization?
We're really trying not to think about that right now, to be honest. But we just had a meeting in Boise last week, and they basically said that they have not heard about any of the federal funding being paused at this time. And they said it's pretty quiet, and they said typically when it's pretty quiet, that's a good sign. So at this point, no.
Good, thank you.
Yes,
Anything else? Thank you so much, Sage. Appreciate all you do. And
great.
Nancy out there at Lake City Center, we appreciate you
Thank you.
taking care of the
Thank
old
you.
folks. I can't wait till I get to be on the list, you know?
We'll put this in a frame too.
So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving along, we're into public comments, and I have a list of folks. If you are interested in speaking to us, there is a list back there. I've got 4 to start with, and we've got 3 minutes on the clock. We'd like you to stay within that 3 minutes so we can get through everybody and get through the rest of the business that we have to do tonight. So with that, I would like Russ McCain. Welcome, Russ.
Kind of cute. You know, I have my mom in a home. It's $12,000 a month. So what they do to keep people at home and independent is really terrific. They're a good bunch. But I came to talk about the conduct of your Chief White and his staff and your city staff and the bar and pool situation. I think they conducted themselves wonderful. There was a letter or an article in the newspaper. It was just fantastically written. I'm really proud of the job they've done. I think the lady was abused, and I think they did their best to right the wrong. And I just thought I needed to say that. Okay. Good night.
Thanks, Russ. Thank you. Next up, Gabe Eckert. Gabe, welcome.
Honorable Mayor and Council, my name is Gabe Eckert, and I am a resident of the city of Coeur d'Alene. I live at 802 North 6th Street, and I am also the president of the Coeur d'Alene Firefighters, Local 710. Tonight, you will be hearing a resolution to move forward with a $16.4 million bond to replace our aging fleet of emergency response apparatus and to significantly upgrade our busiest and most outdated station. I'm here tonight asking you to please vote yes in support of this bond. When we ran the last bond in 2014, we as a department were running 7,835 calls for service per year. Last year, we ran 10,589. That's a difference of 2,754 more responses out of the same 3 engines and 1 ladder truck. We are quite literally running the wheels off of our rigs. Last year, due to frame issues, we were forced to retire our geriatric reserve ladder truck, leaving us with no backup. We also ran into some mechanical issues that kept our frontline ladder out of service for 65 days, leaving us unable to assist our citizens with any emergency above the 3rd floor of a building or that required any of its specialty equipment. Unfortunately, during this time, Ladder 1 was needed at the Wolf Lodge Steakhouse fire, and we were unable to assist our neighbors with the elevated, large caliber water streams that they desperately needed. Station 2 is the busiest house in the department. In 2024, 38% of our calls included at least 1 unit from Station 2. At the time Station 2 was built, it was out on the frontier and housed 2 firefighters. Today, it is a slammed house in the center of our city with 5 firefighters, and they could definitely use a few more. Just recently, we had to mitigate icicle buildup in the attic, which led to a mold problem. It's time to upgrade that station and make it a response-ready facility that it should be. Local 710 lives with this fleet and these facilities every day. Because of this, we voted to run a not yes campaign. For legal reasons, it has to be a in favor of campaign to get this bond across the finish line. We're geared up, we're ready to go, and as soon as you guys vote yes, we press start. Council, the mission of the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department is to provide the highest quality service to the residents and valued guests of the City of Excellence. Please vote yes tonight so that we can hit the ground running to give the citizens exactly that, because they deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. Joshua Houston, come on down, Josh.
Austin.
I just learned his first name last week.
Who's this
you know?
guy? Well, I thought Josh Houston was going to be here.
Welcome, Haas.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mayor, Council, City Team. Joanne, thank you so much for doing that. That was awesome. I appreciate your help. My name's Josh Austin, I'm a resident of Coeur d'Alene, 3993 West Loxton Loop. First, I wanted to start off by just thanking the council for allowing me to address you all. I'm fortunate enough to have some of the folks I get to work with behind me. It's an honor to work with them. And it's an honor to serve this community. We've been serving this community for 136 years, right here. And whether it's 1889 or 2025, the year is different, the mission's the same, and the people are awesome. I'm very, very lucky, the people I get to work with and the public that I get to serve. I want to share with you a story of that service, but I want you to just keep something in mind. The brain starts to die after 4 minutes of no oxygen, and that damage becomes irreparable after 6 minutes. Keep those two numbers in mind as I tell you this story. In Coeur d'Alene, if you look at the sheet you see an article at the bottom that says, administer oxygen to month-old baby. Rushed to Coeur d'Alene late Saturday afternoon from the home of his parents on Micah Flats after difficulty was noticed in the child's breathing. James Dean Walker, 1-month-old son of Mr. and Mrs. James Walker. Today was being administered oxygen for a third successive day at the community hospital. The firemen set up their inhalator equipment to pump oxygen into the tiny baby's lungs from 4 o'clock Saturday until 8 o'clock this morning, which was Monday. An oxygen therapy using a large oxygen tank was set up this morning. The tot now doing quite well after his respiratory difficulty under the care of Dr. O.M. Husted, February 20th, 1939. The only thing different is the date. And I am fortunate to work with the people I work with for this community. It's a pleasure to serve this place, but we need your help. There's a vote coming up this afternoon or this evening. We want to do our job, but we need your help so that we can continue to do it today and into the future. So I urge you to support the bond so that we can do it and get back to service. Thank you.
Thanks, Haas. Suzanne Knutson, come on down.
Good evening. I'm Suzanne Knutson. I live in Coeur d'Alene. And Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month is observed in March every year. It's a time to raise awareness about developmental disabilities and to celebrate achievements of individuals with these disabilities and advocate for them and their inclusion in society. By raising understanding and awareness and supporting those in our community with developmental disabilities. Ronald Reagan established this month back in 1987, and this year the theme is We're Here All Year, and emphasizes that community accessibility and opportunities should be recognized every day, all year, not just in 1 month. Developmental disabilities include intellectual disabilities, autism, and cerebral palsy, to name a few. And individuals with developmental disabilities are valuable members of our communities and deserve full participation in education and employment, recreation, and also in civic engagement. We have several nonprofit organizations in town that support these important individuals and this process. And I hope you will continue to seek their input and support when you need guidance regarding individuals with disabilities in Coeur d'Alene. Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne. Any other public comments? I don't have it put on the list. Hearing none, we'll move on to council announcements. Council? Kiki?
Just to follow up, the Housing Solutions Partnership launched the additional dwelling units plan last week. The Coeur d'Alene Press did a great article on it. It's still out there, as well did the CREM 2 Boomtown project. We launched 4 free to the public plans for those little small houses you can build in your backyard. And that's the effort to try to create more housing for maybe your aging parents or get your kids out of the basement in an affordable way that doesn't disrupt our neighborhoods. And that was a project we've been working on for a couple years. So I just wanted to let you know it's out there. You can see more about it at housingni.org, as well as on multiple cities who are hosting those websites, as well as at the North Idaho Building Contractors Association.com site. So good job, and thank you to everybody who helped on that. And I'll keep you posted on how it goes.
Thanks, Kiki. Anybody else? Mr. Kukin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to do a reminder that tomorrow night there is a meeting for the Idaho Transportation Department. It's going to be at 4 p.m. It is at the Best Western Coeur d'Alene Inn, which is right at the intersection of Appleway and 95, and it's about Appleway and 95 and ITD's current proposal, which is to build a bridge there. And so if you have a concern about that, I would encourage you to show up.
Is that a time change? I thought it was advertised at 5.
I wrote down 1600, so if you want to show up at 5, you'll still be good. If you want to show up at 1600, I'll be in the bar.
Just wondered if it changed.
Anything? Christie, got anything?
Nope.
All right. Moving on. Consent calendar, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yep.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
All the way from the Wastewater River, Mike Becker, welcome.
Wastewater River.
Well, I was thinking the
Spokane
river
River.
and Spokane River.
Are we going to unilaterally rename it now? I mean, that is a thing.
Yeah.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members, and thank you for the opportunity to present my staff report, which is for informational purposes this evening. It's in regards to our evaluation or investigation and conditional assessment of our outfall. So for those of you that don't know what our outfall is, after we treat all of our wastewater through our plant, we have to do something with the water. Once it's all fully clean and treated, we are permitted to discharge into the Spokane River. Shown here in this red line, where's the mouse?
Need to update
This
the
red
screen.
line right through here. Oh. Can we get that? Okay. We'll try this again. So shown here in this red line right here, this is our treatment plant, is our present outfall. Constructed in 1985, this outfall is a 30-inch diameter pipe with 10 holes on it. Those 10 holes have a riser with a diffuser boot. And the diffuser boot, what it does is it basically dissipates the water so you don't have this churning action of what our clean water that we discharge into the Spokane River. So to get a better idea of what we're looking at, I got this neat little video for you all to see. This is the Spokane River. In 2022, we flew our drone over the Spokane River to show you what the outfall looked like back then. And as you can see, we got holes in the riverbed here. These holes is where we discharge out into the river. And as we get closer to the shoreline, you'll notice that it looks like a little mini volcano right there. And right there, it looks like a little mini volcano sticking up out of the riverbed. That's how this is supposed to look like. Let's see, where am I? Okay, originally this outfall was designed to have a discharge capacity of 11.9 to 15.7 million gallons a day. This assumes that we have all 10 diffusers operational. So fast forward to today, I wanted to make sure we get that trail being used by that walker there. This is what the outfall should look like above the riverbed. As you can see, we're dealing with a lot of corrosion. Again, this was installed in 1985. Nothing has been done with this outfall since. Again, this is what the outfall should appear. And roughly half of our diffusers look like this. The other half look like this. We got a hole in the bottom of the river, basically, where our treated effluent is discharged into the river, or like diffuser 6, it is completely buried and not operational. So we're already down one diffuser here. This is a sketch of what it looked like in 2022. One of our diffusers is actually missing and couldn't be found. So right here, you'll notice that diffuser number 1 is chalked up as missing. Again, we have 4 diffusers that are actually functioning above the river, and then we have 1 that's buried, not working, and then we have 4 that are actually below the river grade. So why is it this way? Sedimentation is a natural process that occurs within the river. Whenever you have moving water, suspended sediments, dirt, logs, what have you, settle to the bottom. Happens closer to the shoreline where you get some basically less water to help move your sediment on down. So what did that do for us? Well, again, in 2022, this is what we saw that we had. And we hired an engineer to help us figure out what do we need to do to fix this. Ended up, we don't have enough information. We need more information on what's happening inside the pipe and how much sediment is actually deposited furthermore on the riverbed. So last month, we sent out a request for proposals for a professional diving firm to do the rest of the investigation. Ended up, we had 3 very interested firms. We only received 1 proposal. Conveniently, they're located in Spokane, and they have done numerous outfalls in the Pacific Northwest. They also are responsible for doing some dredging work and some other evaluation work, as well as pipeline installation, underwater work. So we required a specialized firm here to actually do the work that we need to gather enough information so we can compile a report with our engineer that council approved several years ago. So why am I bringing this up to you now? Well, That proposal, we asked for how much that would cost the city. And there's so many unknowns. We just don't know how much sediment's inside the pipe. We don't know how much sediment is buried our pipe, what our fix is. And so we outlined a list of tasks that needed to be done. Well, 6 of those tasks could be estimated by this diving firm. And in my staff report, there's 2 different prices for that, a little over 53,000 and a little over 75,000. However, there's 11 unknown tasks that we would like to have done so we can actually determine what kind of project we need to get this back up to running 100%. We have not had a capacity issue. This does not in any way impede our ability to treat wastewater and dispose of it. However, we don't want to have one of those situations where today it's working, tomorrow it's not. And so this brings us up to why I'm presenting this to you now. Our next step is to negotiate a contract with this diving firm. I would like to write it as a lump sum not to exceed for 6 tasks, and then time and materials for the remaining 11 tasks. And so at this time, we don't believe that it will exceed 100,000. We do have the budget authority. This project has been planned. We actually have a line item for it. And so with that, there's no action that's needed from council, because what we'll do is after we get the contract negotiated, we'll go ahead and present that in the next council meeting. Would like to have that under consent if possible. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
Council, Mr. Gookin.
Mike, do you have a hydraulic engineer look at that as far as like what's going to happen in the future with the sedimentation and how running these jets underwater affects that sedimentation?
Yes, so HDR was originally hired to do that evaluation. Again, not enough information is available on that. And so that's why we are at this stage of getting a diving firm to do the rest of the investigative work underwater for them.
Well, what I was driving at was if you have water moving, so you have flow of water and that affects things going on around it, but also could this firm, if they're going to examine that, look at a schedule for the future so that there would be a routine maintenance performed on this or something else that can be done so that we're not facing this situation in the future?
Yes, typically, the water that moves through there, Spokane River has hydraulically 2 functions. It functions in the late winter and spring, a high runoff, so the flow velocity is really fast.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever try to park a boat on any of those docks on the Spokane River, you're good. But during the slack water period, when the dam closes, the water velocity slows down. And so that's where we find this sediment buildup. And so what we try to do is figure out the timing of how long we can go without doing something, what needs to be done. We have to be careful because there's this big gray area of what we can and cannot do in the Spokane River. And we want to make sure that we're in compliance with that, and that would require us to actually, the engineer combined with this diving firm, to actually discuss things with Army Corps on what we can do in the river.
You can't just turn up the pressure and blow them all out?
If it was that easy, great. Our pumps, yes, we can, but if there's sediment already inside the pipe, it'll just push it down to the very end instead of popping it up.
Okay, so you've thought of these things, that's good.
No, we've thought of all sorts of things. How we thought we could get by without having to do a project back in 2022.
Okay.
Questions, Kenny?
Mayor, thank you. Well, you look great tonight, Mike. Good job, buddy.
Thank you. I got to step it up because my boss keeps wearing these ties and suits and suspenders.
You kind of answered my question. A lot of it was about permitting. And do you have to permit to do any of that? Or is it hard to, is it an IDL thing if you have to do, I know we're ahead of ourselves here, but if we have to do any type of repair work, is that going to be a problem or just wait and see?
So right now, the way things stands, this isn't an investigation process. There's no permitting required on this. If it's a maintenance project, we don't have to do any kind of permitting with IDEQ, the Division of Environmental Quality. However, if we start dredging a whole lot, we're allowed to dredge certain portions of the river, but not very much. And we certainly can't dredge it out of the river. It's considered a hazardous material at that time. If we do that, then we get the Army Corps and everyone involved. So we're trying to figure out what we can do and cannot do at this stage through this investigative process.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? I have to ask questions. 40 years we got out of this. That seems like an antique now, right? Has the systems changed, or is it just the norm? That's just the way they do it if you're on a river. Does Post Falls do it that way? Does Spokane do it?
I heard several questions there.
Sorry.
Yes, the original outfall, which is, let's see if I can get there. This is our second outfall. And so if this green line at the bottom, if this green line down here at the bottom of this picture were to extend straight in the river, that was installed in 1906, before the treatment plant was even built in 1939. So we used to, the village of Coeur d'Alene at that time, used to discharge untreated wastewater into the river. Fast forward to 1939, the city built this treatment plant. 1985, that was an old pipe. The city went ahead and built this new outfall. Your second question is, does Post Falls do this? Does Spokane? All dischargers to the Spokane River discharge in a similar fashion. Basically, you want to take your flow and you want to slow it down so it has a uniform distribution with the river itself. And so we don't have geysers being shot out of the river.
So I always remember us talking about the water we're putting in the river after it's treated is cleaner than the river water. I always thought, I felt proud about that, but it's
We're
still
very proud of
sentiment.
The city has done an excellent job of proactively staying ahead of the treatment criteria. I actually got into a conversation, how clean is our wastewater? So imagine if I could yank out one of my fine silver hairs here, 1/1000th of a diameter of my hair, lengthwise, not sideways, lengthwise, is the holes in our membrane. It traps just about everything. It traps all bacteria, just, phosphorus, all the nutrients. So we're very proud of the fact that this city has done a great job of staying ahead of the game, getting our wastewater as clean as possible, even before we're required to do so. We get to thank our predecessors for that.
Yeah, it's got a great long history. Well, it sounds like an adventure you guys are on, trying to
Thank
figure
you.
this out. I bet somebody's going to come up with something newer and cooler and maybe further out into the river,
Well, we'll see what this evaluation produces in the report. And then, again, what will happen is our next step is you'll have a contract that's presented through the consent calendar at the, hopefully, next council meeting. I'll call them up tomorrow and we'll start negotiating.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate your.
Thank you.
I always love stuff about the sewer treatment plant. I just can't help it. All right, Council Bill 251005. Fire Chief Tom Grief. Welcome, Tom. Welcome back, I should say.
Yeah, it seems like I've been up here a lot lately. See,
That's what's fun about it. Come on.
it is. My boss keeps reminding me that this is a fun part of my job, so I'm embracing it. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Once again, thank you for the opportunity. It's been a lot over the last few months, and we're before you this evening, and I appreciate your consideration on this important decision that's going to be made. I'd like to thank Josh and Gabe for coming up in public comment and supporting. I think Gabe got his hands on our presentation because he stole some of our thunder, but that's okay. Before I jump into the actual details, I want to, with me tonight is Captain Jeff Fletcher. He's a captain of Green Shift that lives at Station 2 with his crew. And so he's going to talk a little bit as well about Station 2 itself and the current needs, conditions and needs moving in the future. I also have our logistics chief, Lucas Pichette, here, and Deputy Chief Sells as well. So you have the two items before you tonight. You have a staff report that I authored, as well as the proposed ordinance that includes the possible ballot language if we choose to move forward this evening. But before I get to those, I think it's important that I want to catch up the folks in attendance that may not have been involved with this since July and those that are online watching. So just a little history recap, so bear with me. Most of us in this room have lived through 2 bonds already. This would be our 3rd one. The first in 2005 was run as a public safety bond for $7 million, and then we ran a second one in 2015 for $6 million. So I came before you last July and asked for your support and approval to seek out a municipal advisory firm to help us with this GO bond coming before us. You provided support. We moved forward. We did an RFQ with the help of city administration. In August, we received 2 proposals, and then we assembled a RFQ evaluation committee that scored the proposals, and ultimately we selected Zion's Public Finance and Portman Square, who you've seen a couple of times already before you. So in December, the legal teams came together and we had a contract of services completed. And then I came before you again in January seeking your support to launch a community-based survey, in which we did. And then last month, Amy Hawley from Portman Square presented you with the findings and results from that survey, which were very favorable looking forward at this bond. Since the last since the last council meeting, myself and Michael Keith have been working with Ms. Danielle Quaid and Mr. Brandon Helgerson, who are our bond counsel. They're with the firm of Hawley Troxel. Brandon's in Boise. I believe Ms. Quaid's here in Coeur d'Alene. But we've been working with them. They helped author the ordinance that you have and the bond language or the ballot language, which is included on page 2 of that packet. We feel that working with them went really well. The goal for us as a fire department was to make sure we had language in there that was flexible enough, that would allow us to do all of the projects specifically for the facilities that are included in this bond, anything from demolition to rebuild to renovation. And as you can see, that verbiage was captured in there. So we feel like that's a good language moving forward for us to go on the ballot if you choose to in May. So this first slide you see is I've broken down, basically I've taken the bond, broken it into 2 major areas. The first one being fire apparatus fleet replacement at the amount of just over 10 million, and the facility upgrade and remodels at 6.3 estimated, and I'll break this down more as we go. I would like to emphasize that our priorities with these projects is always to be good stewards with the tax dollars, number one. We also need to plan for the future, as we heard from Josh and Gabe. That's important for us, making sure that we're planning for the needs of our folks in the future, which ultimately translates to public safety for the community, and that we had a needs assessment. So the challenge that we have here is we're going out to bond on an estimate of the projects that we anticipate. And so we don't want to come back to you for more funds, and so that's the challenge that we've had with this, but we feel like the numbers that we've received from contractors and architects, that we have a good number going forward, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. Some of these slides are a review from July and August and January. This slide here is important because it reflects the cost of an engine in our last bond in 2015 versus what an engine's going to cost us if we order one this year, so over double. Same with a ladder truck, 1.4 in 2015 and over 2 million going forward now. Some command vehicles or staff vehicles, that's an example. But not only that, but the construction costs that we're looking at when we opened Station 4 in 2017, we opened that for $1.5 million, and that equated to less than $200 a square foot to build that station. And moving forward, as you see in your packet, we're anticipating a number near $400 a square foot with our facility upgrades that we have facing us today. This just further breaks down the types of apparatus of the fleet that we're seeking to obtain through this bond. And then the next slide here, I believe, was a response. Councilwoman Miller, I believe, asked this at the last meeting. So Deputy Chief Pichette provided this. If you look at the first three apparatus on the left side, those are our current first out engines. The challenge here is if we were to order engines today, we're looking at 36 to 48 month build time on those. So 3 to 4 years out before we even get them. So the crystal ball here it's an educated guess for us. I think we would like to keep one of the Rosenbauers, but 4 years out from now, it's pretty hard to project that. But I think our ideal scenario would be keep one of the first out engines as maybe a training engine. Other solution or options could be we could surplus them in 4 years. I don't know that there would be much of a resale value in those, maybe to a smaller agency that is low volume, or we could look at providing the college with some more apparatus like we have before when we decommissioned our previous ladder truck and engine. And on the right side there, those are staff vehicles, utility vehicles. And so that's just part of the fleet that will be retiring or moving into that reserve position. So at this time, I'd like to welcome up Captain Fletcher to the podium. Like I said, he lives at Station 2 with his crew on green shift. He's going to talk about the current status of that station and some of the needs going into the future. So if Captain Fletcher could come up.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Mayor and Council, Administration. I thought that the Chief was going to ask me up here because I have so much expertise in bonds, but I'm the sympathy vote. I'm the oldest guy on green shift, and I'm the oldest guy at Station 2. But that's fine. I have been at Station 2 for probably 18 and a half of my 22 years of service at the fire department, so I've seen it from when it was the built as the two-man house to now to where we are today. So, for whatever, either luck or happenstance or foresight, the city leaders, when they built Station 2 as the perimeter station in 1992, which is older than many of our senior firefighters and engineers, built it in a great spot. As all of you know who've been here for a while, the city just grew up around Station 2, and it's been the busiest station ever since. So it's true, it was built as a two-man engine company. And the majority of our population and target hazards have stayed in Station 2's area since that time over the last 20 years. And we've actually used bonds from 2005 and 2015 to do some remodeling of Station 2, as well as add our training tower and add storage facilities on our grounds there. That being said, as well as building Station 4, which a big part of that was to ease the response from Station 2's the calls from Station 2's response areas. That being said, in the last 10 years, with the addition of Station 4, Station 2's call volume has still increased over 16%. And I think Gabe said earlier, on 30% of 911 calls that go out in the city of Coeur d'Alene, Station 2 is supplying at least one apparatus to those calls. So it's still, I don't want to call it the moneymaker, but it still is the workhorse of the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department and will continue to be into the near future. There we go. So our needs have changed, obviously. Even though we house five folks there, we're looking to possibly house 6 to 8 in the future. Because of its central location, it's pivotal to now move our battalion chief out to Station 2, since that's where all the call volume is. That's the central station for what happens in the city. And as it is now, we really don't have the ability to house that many people, not even considering that we need gender-specific dormitories, restrooms. Right now, our office space, we have 3 firefighters working out of one small office. The captain works out of his dorm room, and the engineer works out of the day room. So really, realistically, the day work that needs to be done at Station 2 to write reports, do staff evaluations, planning, and so forth, really is not adequate the way Station 2 stands as it is. Added to that, Station 2 is generally our rescue dog, our canine station. We run our new hire academies out of that station, and much of our cadet activities are run out of that station as well. Since it was built in 1992, and even since our last bonds, there's been new standards that come out with decontamination, void spaces between apparatus bays and living quarters that this station really is unable to provide as it is now, as well as bays were built for smaller trucks back then. Our trucks barely fit. You can barely walk around the trucks. There's no room for other apparatus or staff vehicles in our bays. They really don't function efficiently and effectively for what their needs are now. Go to the next one. Let me go to the next slide. So really quickly, so this is actually a picture of the addition of our dorms now, and I would not be remiss to say that we have been good stewards of this money. It's our classroom on the bottom and our dorms on top, and right now this is the result of our 2005 GEO bond to house the people that we have there now. Did you want to talk about the contingency, why there's a contingency for it? Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
so like the chief said, with Station 2's costs, we consulted with other agencies and builders since we don't have the plan, since we don't have the bond. And we felt comfortable that having a 15% contingency with a $400 a square foot cost would encompass what our needs are going to be, and it's going to recuse us from having to come back and ask for more money because we didn't plan appropriately, which is the last thing we want to do. And finally, the other costs associated with stations are, for Station 3, is to house our specialized rescue unit and our rescue unit and apparatus in that station. And with Station 1, the remodel would be to improve the personal protective equipment storage and the decontamination spaces for that station that are also basically non-existent. And the one piece that's not on here is there is also a specialty training prop that would be added to our campus to replace our current outdated and weathered roof prop, which would allow us to provide specialty training on all different types of roofs as in other specialty situations. So that would cover what our needs are for the facilities at this time. Turn back over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. So with that, so Captain Fletcher, if you approve us to move forward, is going to serve as our lead for the outreach community education portion of, so as a city and the fire department, we're allowed to educate. We can't advocate, where the union can go and they can advocate and do a yes campaign. We're the city, we have to stay within our lane and educate only. And so Jeff has agreed to take on that lead position, and then the admin staff will support him with community engagements and all the efforts that will go into analytics and information on apparatus out of service times and things of that nature. And so back to that is our bond counsel. She's the one that's going to help guide us to keep us both in our lanes. So when we go out and do community engagements, we'll have the union doing theirs and the fire department doing ours, and it's advocate versus educate, so that we're not going to blur the lines in this effort going forward. With that, so I wanted to touch briefly in December, and this is important for the folks watching online, because I know that this is probably one of the priorities, is how is this going to impact our property taxes? In the ordinance and the ballot language, you saw the amount, I believe it's $16.07 per 100,000. Earlier, when we provided you estimates in December, we ran it at $17, so we were pretty close. But for the people watching, I just want to talk a little bit about, again, a house in the city that's valued at approximately $550,000, minus the homeowner's exemption of $125, so you'll have a taxable value of right around $425,000, is currently paying about $31 annually, or $2.60 a month on the 2015 bond. That will sunset in August, I believe. So moving forward with this bond, if we choose to go with the 16.4, the same valued house, $425,000, the projection will be $69 annually, or $5.75 a month. So we're looking at just about double. And why that's relative is when we go back to these slides where we see the cost of apparatus in building, it's relative. The costs are doubled, apparatus is doubled, construction, and so we feel that that's just important to point out to the citizens, because we want to be sensitive, and we know that the tolerance to property taxes is a sensitive topic. So we just wanted to review that before we got to the conclusion here of our staff report. So with that, just to close, my recommendation to City Council is to approve the proposed ordinance and Fire Department General Obligation Bond for May 20th of 2025. In doing so, we'll allow the voters to invest in their fire department, which in turn invests in the public safety of the community. A well-equipped fire department is essential in safeguarding the lives and property within our community. And at this time, I thank you for the opportunity to come up here this evening, and we can answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Chief. Question, Kenny?
Yeah, a couple things if I could, please. First of all, thanks for everybody being here, the firefighter staff. I know this has been a culmination of a lot of work for you, and it's just great to see the support. And for us to look out and see it, it means a lot to us. Jeff, you were up there because you are an expert at this. If you don't know, Jeff got his MBA from the University of Idaho, sponsored by the city, and his MBA actually gave me the roadmap for 2015. So Jeff is well-versed at this, and I'm sure that Chief Greif is thrilled to have you continue with that knowledge that you have. A little something about Station 2, if I could, real quick. Station 2 was built in '92, and it was built as quickly and as cheaply as it possibly could, because the old Station 2 got condemned because it was methane gas was coming in because it was built over a dump. So when it was built, speed was, that's what they were looking for. You talk about the old guys, Captain Fletcher. Well, I worked the first shift at Station 2 opened in 1992. I was out there driving that day. So it's been a long time. And when we redid the remodel, we didn't have space to make it much bigger, and we really didn't have the money, even with the bond, to make it much bigger. And the one thing that we could have done better, that I hope we're doing now, and I think we are, is build for the future out there. Don't build to where we just barely fit. And something that Troy has always beat into our head is these buildings are long-term assets of the cities. Mm-hmm. So I personally, as you can imagine, I'm big time into this. I really want it to pass. I think it will. Everybody's done a spectacular job. But I would like to do the caveat that I would like it completely rebuilt and start it over and build from anew.
Mr. Gookin.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to second that, Kenny. I think I had the discussion with Chief Greif and also with Haas, and I said we should just go forward and build a new one, especially given what Gabe said about the potential of new firefighters in the future. Yeah, we got to plan ahead. I don't want to be coming back to the public and saying, "Oh yeah, we shorted you on this. We got to do it right." So I agree with you. Let's do it right.
Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great presentation. If I could ask Captain Fletcher a couple of questions, Chief. Thanks, Chief. Chief, you probably know the answers too, but he lives there.
He does, yeah. I lived there when it was just 2 people,
Yeah, okay.
now I'm 6.
Well, maybe you could kind of give us a real world scenario of how are you utilizing the space you have now? If you have to have 5 to 6 people there, I assume there's just one bathroom. I saw the tiny kitchen. Maybe give us an example.
We utilize every single square inch of that station. I think that when you grow up there and that's where you live, that's kind of all you know, and so we've made it work. But I guess there are sacrifices that you make in accommodations, and not having, like, I don't have an office, which and the firefighters don't have an office. I mean, they don't necessarily need office, but there's 3 or 4 guys in a small, tiny office doing reports and things like that, and I always tell guys, it makes your crew very, very, you have to be very, very comfortable with each other because there's nowhere to hide, which is not a bad thing. I'm not complaining about that part of it, but yeah, I think it's hard for me to say because it's like when you're there every day, you don't see the changes or the needs as much, but I know that the addition of the new dorms and that classroom and that other bathroom has helped quite a bit, but like the chief said, is we can barely get in and out of our bay. We can, it's just really doesn't function well for us going into the future.
If you don't have an office, and as a supervisor, there are times when you need an office to speak to an employee, how are you managing that? Because that really should be private.
We do it in my dorm room.
That's not cool. And then my other question is for the chief, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief, some of the apparatus replacements, I think I get it because we're looking at 10 years from now. None of these vehicles are going to make it 10 years from now, not even the command vehicles. But some of them do have mileage that's not that horrible. Are you going to make those available to other city departments? What do you plan to do with those?
No, absolutely. So staff vehicles that still have value or life, we could make those available to other city departments, or we could surplus them to smaller outlying rural agencies as well. The problem when you get, like, if you look at the rescue down there on the bottom of the right-hand column, the miles are low, but it's a 2006, so repairing it, getting parts, becomes a challenge when it's that old, even though the miles, because that sat for a lot of years. We're cross-staffing it now, but it sat for a lot of years because it was a USAR truck waiting for, we were waiting to get deployed within the state of Idaho, and so it sat for a lot of years, but now it's got low miles, but we need to replace it because we're cross-staffing our rescue now and we're getting more responses.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments? Kiki?
Just maybe a follow-up. There was some input on building new for Facility 2 with an amount of 6.3 in the current budget request. How would that affect the ability of this current bond for that structure?
So that'll be, the challenge will be, we feel like we went to the high water mark early. And what we did was we based it on, because it's an estimate, what our needs would be. So right now the station's 5,600 square feet-ish. We're modeling after something that's closer to like 9,500. And so and we're looking at a couple new fire stations that were just built around us. One's at 9,500, one's at 14,000. I don't think we need the 14,000, but the 9,500 would give us room to grow the apparatus floor, accommodate the extra folks. And, the day of sharing a bedroom, I think have come and gone for gender and just privacy. You spend a third of your life with each other in a small house. I mean, you can imagine, I have 5 in my house right now and it bothers me. So you want more space, you want your private space, and when you're there for 48 hours, you want your own bedroom. And so we have some ideas where we can improve the design, but the flexibility to allow us to look at different designs, and we feel like we did set a high water mark for it, but again, I can't control bids, what they come in. We don't know what tariffs are gonna do. We don't know what the supply and demand for materials in California from the fires are going to do. So it's a bit of a crystal ball as well.
So, sorry, what I'm hearing you say is that with this 6.3, you would attempt to build the new Station 2 and use what's left in the remodels for the others as needed, and that would be the priority list?
Right, so we have all of those built into the 6.3 as I'm standing here today with a number of $400 a square foot. So like I said, we received numbers in the low threes and something
Right.
near 5. We obviously weren't comfortable with 325 a square foot, so we modeled it at the 400 with contingency built in as well at that 15%. So
Okay.
if that's the direction of council, that's the direction we would ultimately go.
Amy, got anything?
I had the same question as Kiki, so thank you.
I have one question. Could you repeat how much a day it's going to cost on my $425,000 house?
Oh, so for the new bond?
Yes.
Oh, so it would be $5.75 a month.
Okay, so 2 mochas or one really
Depends
nice
on where you
big
get
one
it.
mocha?
Yeah. If
Okay,
you go to Jitters, probably a little more.
all right. Thank you.
Your day cost would be between 19 and 20 cents.
Good. That's like finding a quarter on the ground, huh? Kenny?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just one more question. I'm sure that if this goes in May, you're ready to go to bid right away for everything?
Well, no, not for the construction. We have some work to do with that, of course, because we don't have a design. The apparatus, absolutely, as fast as the bonds go to market and Troy gives us the thumbs up, we would do the fleet.
Amy?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to dispense with the rule and read Council Bill number 25-1005 once by title only.
Discussion?
I'll second that
Oh,
for
I'm
discussion.
sorry. Good. Discussion? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Aye.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yep.
Would you read the title, please?
An ordinance calling a general obligation bond election to be held for the purpose of submitting to the qualified electors of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, a proposition for the issuance of negotiable general obligation bonds of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and in providing for the issuance of such bonds, the levy of a tax to pay such bonds.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to adopt Council Bill number 25-1005.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Kiki?
I just would add, just to follow up, that I hope that the priority does stay with the facilities remodel budget, the way that council had discussed it here tonight.
Mr. Gookin?
And Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say Councilmember English is not here, but if he was, he told us he would be voting yes on this.
Okay. All right, roll call, please.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Gookin.
Yes.
You guys are good.
So,
Get busy.
Mr. Mayor, seeing that we're all done up here, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out.